Dear Bapak Dr. Imam Ghozali, the Vice Rector for Academic Affairs, Ibu Yuyun Yulia PhD, the Vice Rector for Cooperation and Public Relations Affairs, Professor Dr. Ki Supriyoko MPD, the Director of Graduate Education, honorable speakers, distinguished colleagues, and ladies and gentlemen. First of all, let me extend a very warm welcome to all of you to the International Zoominar Techno-based ELP in New Normal. I'm pleased to see so many guests virtually and especially honored to welcome our distinguished speakers. This Zoom seminar was organized by English Education Department Graduate Education Program and supported by the Director of Graduate Education, also Bureau of Cooperation and Public Relations Affairs. Thank you very much to all of your fantastic help. I'm very indebted to the speakers, Dr. Nicola, Raelke, Andrew Pollard of Darwin University, Australia. Also, Dr. Anh Pham of RMIT University, Australia. Dewi Andriani of University of Queensland, Australia. Also, my special distinguished speaker, Dr. Wan Irham Ishak of Universiti Teknologi Malaysia, and Dr. Imam Ghozali of Universitas Sarjanawiyata, Tamansiswa, Indonesia. In this interest of time, let me inform you that this Zoominar is participated by 250 international participants. Ladies and gentlemen, currently we are globally bumping into a tremendous pandemic which forced us to be physically distancing. This issue is our concern to manage our teaching and also learning process. Idea, ability, and modalities need to be shared and also discussed to demystify the pedagogical theories, also context to provide more techno-based contextual teaching. In the discipline of ELD, there are challenges to be encountered. Please make use of this meeting to see possibilities and opportunities to empower ourselves in facing this new normal. In this occasion, I would like also to invite Professor Dr. Ki Supriyoko to give his remark and also open this Zoominar. I wish you a lot of new ideas and a good health. Thank you. Salam and wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Ibu Hasti Robiase. I'd like to invite Professor Ki Supriyoko to give his remark and also officially open this Zoominar. Mic is yours, Prof. Supriyoko.
Thank you very much for this time, Pak Anan. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam dan bahagia. Dear Dr. Imam Ghozali MA, the Vice Rector for Academic Affairs. Dear Dr. Yuyun Julia, the Vice Rector for Cooperation and Public Relations Affairs. Dear Hasti Robiase, Doctor, the Head of Study Program, English Education, honorable speakers, distinguished colleagues, and ladies and gentlemen. It is my great pleasure to welcome you to the International Zoominar organized by English Education Department, Universitas Sarjanawiyata, Tamansiswa, Yogyakarta. We are very grateful to Universitas Sarjanawiyata Tamansiswa for the tremendous support they have provided a host and the Zoominar organizing committee, particularly Dr. Hastiro Biase, whose members have worked together to make this Zoominar possible. I would like to express my thanks to the speakers. One, Dr. Nicola Rawls, two, Raelke, and three, Andrew Pollard of Charles Darwin University, Australia. For Dr. Anh Pham of RMIT University, Australia, fortunately, I have 3 times visit in RMIT University, in Central Campus, in Koper and Bundura, because I have 2 friends in Faculty of Education. Their name is Ian and Stephanie Leitz. Thank you too for Dewi Andriani, doctor from the University of Queensland, Australia, Dr. Wan Irham Ishak of University Teknologi Mara. Beruntung saya juga 3 kali pernah ke Mara. And of course, Dr. Imam Ghozali from Universitas Sarjanawiyata Tamansiswa. Thank you for your valuable time and your willingness to share your excellent idea for the development of education. I hope that this event will inspire your deliberation about the language teaching and the use of technology for academic creativity to face the teaching challenge in the new normal era. As a director of the Graduate Education Program, Universitas Sarjanawiyata Tamansiswa, allow me to officially open this international Zoominar by saying Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Thank you and have a nice Zoominar. Salam. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you for your remark, Professor Kisprioko. Well, everyone, before we go on, allow me to introduce myself as the moderator for today's Zoominar. My name is Anandio Darcito. I work on the English Education Department Graduate Education Program of Sarjanawiyata Tamansiswa University, and I'm excited to be hosting today. We are going to have 5 sessions altogether, so I'm pleased to introduce the first session speakers, Dr. Nicola Rawls, Raelke, and Andrew Pollard of Charles Darwin University, Australia. Nicola was my supervisors, my thesis professors in Charles Darwin University, and she is the Assistant Dean Student Experience and Senior Lecturer, Academic Language and Learning at Charles Darwin University. She has worked for more than 20 years in the field of higher education enabling and the first year experience, then applying systemic functional linguistics as an approach to understanding the challenges of academic discourse and culture for new students. Raelke is a lecturer in common units at Charles Darwin University, a linguist and a writer. She teaches predominantly in academic literacies and ESL. Then Andrew, allow me to call you Andy, is attached to College of Education with Charles Darwin University. His professional experience has been he teach at undergraduate and postgraduate level across EAP, English Academic Purposes, Academic Literacies, and Applied Linguistics in Australia, China, and Korea. Well, what an experience. They have published a lot of publication and has presented numerous conferences and webinars. And today they are going to share English as a second language in the new normal era, reflecting on 3 points of tension: nonverbal communication, multimodality, the interpersonal. I'd like to hand over the mic to Nicola. Nicola, would you please take the mic?
Okay, thank you. Terima kasih banyak. Well, hi everybody. Lovely to see you all. It's quite amazing, isn't it, that we're all here together in this cyberspace from different parts of the world. It's quite remarkable to me to see how many participants there are. And I'm really excited about the topic of this presentation as well. I think obviously it's a very, very urgent one and something we're all puzzling over, including myself and my co-presenters. So we're speaking here from an exploratory point of view. We're not speaking here as experts because we're learning as we go in this cyberspace of language learning. So I'm not sure. I'll introduce my colleagues and then perhaps Hanan, will you be loading the PowerPoint or do I need to load it? Oh.
Sorry. Sorry.
Once I introduce my colleagues, will the PowerPoint be loaded or do I need to load it up?
You can load it yourself. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
You can load it. Yeah. Yes.
All right. Hopefully I can do that quite quickly.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, that should be fine. So just to introduce Raelke, who you can see her face down, well, she's on my bottom right corner on my screen. And Raelke and I have worked closely together for maybe 3 years now as a very happy, committed team to particularly the area of academic language and learning at our university. And our third colleague, Andrew Pollard, unfortunately is an apology. He became quite ill yesterday, so we're going to present on his behalf, but he sends his best wishes. So now I should share the screen. Please excuse me while I do that. Just have to find the correct one. This is it here.
Nicola, I can help you if you like.
Okay, see how we go.
Oh, okay.
How does that look?
It looks
can you
great.
see now?
Yeah, it's clear.
Good. And I'll just put slideshow on. Oops. Sorry, everyone. I've misunderstood the protocol here. Sorry, won't be a second. Okay, so I'm just trying to work out how to get the slide view.
Nicola, if you just go to slideshow at the top.
Yep.
Yep. And then if you click on that and then...
Oh, there it is.
Yeah, awesome.
There, okay. Phew, that's better. All right, so everyone can see that okay. And yeah, when we were invited to present this talk, we were thinking about it, you know, what came to our mind immediately about some of the things we've observed. And so this was really quite spontaneously, we thought actually these seem to be some points of tension: non-verbal communication, multimodality, and the interpersonal domain. So we're going to explore those with you. But before we go any further, I'd just like to say greetings to everyone who's come, and terima kasih, particularly to the staff and participants from the English Education Department at Universitas, who I've been very lucky to meet in person before COVID times, and I hope we can get to meet in person again before long. But I'd especially like to thank Professor Dr. Supriyoko, the Director of the Graduate Education Program, Dr. Imam Ghozali, the Vice Rector of Academic Affairs, Yulia, the Vice Rector of Cooperation and Public Relations Affairs. It's really an honour to be invited to present at this conference. And always thanks to our great colleague and collaborator, Ananjo Dido. So without further ado, let's have a look at what some of our reflections are. So what we thought we'd talk about today is the context, firstly, for our reflections, and then talk a little bit about the tensions for international students that certainly were picked up from the literature, but our own observations as well, and talk about enhancing possibilities for enhancing opportunities for three important components of language and learning, and then some take-home messages. And I'm very excited to see that Dr. Anh Pham is a presenter today, because in fact, one of the great sources for us as we were reflecting on this and seeing what was in the literature was her PhD. So you know, we'll actually be sharing some of those findings, and we're looking forward to hearing you elaborate on your work. So it's fabulous to be have you here as well. All right, so just to tell you a little bit about the context. So it goes without saying that COVID-19 is affecting the landscape of higher education and all learning, not just higher education, but that's our interest. And it's really required this incredible adaptivity and flexibility. And I've sort of been keeping an eye on what's been happening for people in Indonesia through my conversations with Hananjo, and it sounds like similarly early last term, at the beginning of the year, we all had to suddenly become great online teachers and shift all our courses online. So that's been enormous and harder for some universities than others. Our university has a very strong online presence. 70% of our students are online already. But what was particularly interesting for us was that normally our international students, for whom English is a second or other language, they normally always study internally. And so we've never had to consider the additional challenges that they will face if they're studying online from another language perspective. And actually 35% of our internal students are international. So that's kind of where we're coming from. Now, we're particularly thinking about our compulsory academic literacy unit that Raelke and Andy coordinate and we all teach into. And we have around 1,100 students in the unit. So that's the context of that. So the unit has international students, and then all students from all sorts of other backgrounds, many mature, many who have incomplete schooling and have come into university through our vocational courses. So it's a very interesting, diverse group of students. But our particular focus for this talk is on those international ones. And as a result of our experience last semester, we've actually embarked on a new research project to try and evaluate the effectiveness of the measures we implemented in response to this rapid switch online, and discover how students adapted and how teaching staff adapted. So actually the invitation to present this talk has been really timely, because we're just in the process now of looking at the literature. We've had some focus groups into trying to understand what it's been like for students. So before we go any further, we're interested to discover what your experiences of the tensions students face learning English and learning in English online. So I wondered if you might use the chat box Hanan, I hope you can help with this, but is it possible for people to share their thoughts in a chat box, or even, yeah, just using your microphone, if you feel comfortable doing that? But Hanan, I won't be able to see the chat box, so you would need to read out what people are saying, if you don't mind. So if I could just invite people to share you through the mic or the chat box what your experience, and perhaps one or two of the really strong things that have jumped out to you about the difficulties your students have faced learning English or learning in English online. Give people a couple of minutes. Hanan, can you let me know if you're seeing any chats happening? Oh, maybe I can see those. Oh, I can see the chat. Huh, fantastic. I just worked out how to see the chat. Great. Okay, so we have people talking about how the internet connection is not so good. Oh, that's that was to do with coming into the seminar. Yeah, Union, because of the internet access, they look so happy by the time they listen to a voice. That's very interesting. Getting instructions, technicality, difficulty, in a sense, to access, and sometimes they don't have the money. Yeah. Camera shyness is a very interesting one, for sure. I think we all suffer from a bit of that, some of us. Yep. Any other thoughts? What about language related? I mean, it's all language related in a sense, but okay. Students just log in. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Not knowing whether they exist or not in the class. Comprehending the content of the lesson personally. Yeah. 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 That's interesting to explore a bit more about. Yeah. So it's interesting. A very strong theme seems to be internet data. And this is going to be really problematic, because if people can't connect, they're a very, very long way from being able to learn and learn through interaction. So yeah, it's very, very problematic. Okay, well, let's go on and have a little bit of a look of some of the things that we've found in the literature and from our experience about the tensions students face. So just, and again, this is a relatively old reference, but it's still relevant in the sense that I don't think a lot has changed in terms of our ability or our strategies to tackle English language requirements of students from other language backgrounds in an online learning space. I believe this is a very neglected area, and like many things, this COVID time is perhaps bringing things clearly in front of us that we've perhaps neglected to think about and address. I believe this is one of them. So Wan and Reeves have identified in their study a number of issues. They talk about, or students talk about, feeling nervous in group discussions online, particularly with reading and discussing tasks presented in short time frames. So you can imagine we'd all understand the process of translating a task into your own language, translating it back into English, checking the grammar, and you're trying to do all of this, and you're meant to be quickly responding in a chat room at the same time. It's very, very stressful for students from other language backgrounds. Lacking access to facial expression, so it's harder then you're missing those other cues for understanding your classmates and teachers, and also for the teachers to check their understanding. So it was very interesting. A number of students said, you know, they feel shy about saying to the teacher, look, could you repeat that? I don't understand. So to some extent, they rely on the teacher looking at their visual cues, their body language, and going, oh, I need to repeat this or rephrase it, or directly asking them, you know, can I explain this better for you? So that was a very interesting insight, how much students recognized that they need teachers to be watching their body language for cues. So the other point was difficult in supplementing verbal explanations with drawing or demonstrating. And again, this was a revelation to me, that the students recognized that often they rely on using a pictorial version of what they're trying to explain to get their ideas across. I mentioned asking questions are not easy, and making friends, which seems to be recognized as a really important part of their learning experience. They also cited, you know, when the course content is related to Western country contexts and explanations use idiomatic language, it's very, very hard when they're trying to listen online and they don't have the opportunities to clarify either with their friends or with the teacher. This study was based on work with Taiwanese students, and so it was recognised that they're more reserved, but interestingly also believe they need more external pressure to motivate them. They tend to be less intrinsically motivated and more relying on being told what to do and to focus and get on with things, and less used to expressing their own thinking and ideas. So many of them felt they preferred face-to-face activities, or some face-to-face activities as part of their learning experience, if that were possible. Asynchronous activities, more intergroup, so that they're not just communicating with one small group, but with the groups across the class, and more multimedia and clear rules on how to use online discussions. Because a lot of them observed that Western students have a whole kind of casual way of communicating, and they talk about personal issues, and the other students are going, those aren't relevant to our learning, you know, why are you talking about these things? And they feel uncomfortable and they're not sure what the rules of the game are. So that was also very interesting to read about. Chen, Bennett and Mayton have done a lot of work coming from an LCT point of view, but their work with, this was with Chinese students, and their students identified reduced input from teacher being something I felt was really problematic, really missed the learning community, no enforcement of learning, so that relates back to that other point. And they really missed that absence of a teacher-student relationship. And I thought this was very interesting, how much this theme of needing that emotional, trusting relationship with the teacher came through in a lot of the studies I read. So a quote from one of the students was, you can't feel anything online. You can't see get their feelings, their personalities, or any kind of emotional relationship. So students clearly rely a lot on that, many students, on that building of trust, and therefore giving them the courage to ask the teacher questions. And they recognise the teacher as a very important part of the person that will clarify and help them learn and understand. So that was really, really interesting. So these student views capture key components of language learning, a range of them really, that I believe most of us are having a lot of trouble incorporating in our online pedagogy. And those could be captured under nonverbal communication multimodality and the interpersonal. And of course, there's a range of other things. So that's what we're going to look at. So looking at the nonverbal, and I don't need to spell this out with this audience, but it's always worth revisiting general definitions before we go into a discussion about this. So according to Dinnicker and Gregerson, nonverbal communication includes body language, gesture, facial experience, eye contact, and proxemics. In other words, that space between the communicators, the physical space. It's important because it's incredibly important for aiding and checking comprehension and engagement. So in any learning, but very much so with language learning. So body language has the potential to contribute to the clarity of the spoken message. And this occurs through what Howard would refer to as the sonovergent, where you're moving to the rhythm and the stress of the language, you can probably see my hands now, as I'm doing now, and the semovergent, which is when you're using body language to actually express a meaning. So, you know, someone asks me, how big's the fish you caught? And I say, this big, or this big. So the body language actually plays a much larger part in aiding understanding than we possibly recognise. So what are the tensions for nonverbal communication with online methods? Obviously, technology-mediated communication can't encompass all these nonverbal cues. For example, online chat discounts gesture, facial expression, proxemics. Those are all missing from an online chat. So students may benefit if wherever possible, where we can use a video to capture gesture, posture, and to some extent proxemics. And teachers may benefit from being able to see the student on the other side. But, you know, it was very interesting to see how many of you suggested that bandwidth and technology are major impediments to online learning, even before we've started to think about this language. So really, we can't even be thinking about using videos if those are issues. And in fact, in our online classrooms, we discourage students, unfortunately, from using their videos because it can affect the bandwidth. But we generally use our own. Other challenges remain with incorporating MVC online. And the challenge of how to maximise their interaction. You know, they really recognise that interacting with each other helps their learning, but what are the realities of trying to maximise that student-to-student interaction and embedding nonverbal communication? So one of the things to think about is, can we use multimodality as a scaffold for the loss of this? And Raelke is going to talk about this a bit more from now, I think. Please don't hesitate to put your hand up or use your mic. I'm not going to stop and have a discussion here as I'd hoped to, because I'm sure I'm going over time already. So I might hand over to Raelke.
Thanks, Nicola, and thanks everyone. It's really wonderful to be here presenting to you all this morning. So yeah, I was just going to speak a little bit about multimodality and I guess how we used that or tried to use that as a strategy to help compensate a bit for that lack of nonverbal cues for our students. And I just also noticed that comment in the chat about is the student's critical thinking at stake given some of these issues? And I think, yeah, absolutely. And I think probably through multimodality, it's one way we can try and deal with that a little bit. But I think also from my perspective, I found that the onus was on the students a lot more to come forward with what they didn't understand. So it was more difficult for me to gauge which students may not have been comprehending everything as much. And as much as we said to the students, please ask if you don't understand this. Of course, there may be students who aren't comfortable doing that. But I'm just going to talk now about a couple of ways we did try to use multimodality to help with this. So I guess multimodality itself has been defined as the normal state of human communication. So in everyday life, humans are confronted by many different texts in many different modes, and it requires us to use multiple semiotic resources every single day to make sense of the texts we encounter. So things like language, visual images, sound, we're really bombarded by a lot of this all the time. So we all, have to make meaning of these different aspects. And I just also wanted to point out when I'm using text here, the term, I'm not only referring to written texts, but it would also be spoken and visual as well. So to all different modes. And it's really important to incorporate different modalities into the classroom to provide students with a range of opportunities to experience the content they are learning and the skills they are developing. So in this way, it is one way of also scaffolding to students' different learning styles and needs. And in particular for students from non-English speaking backgrounds, I think it's really, really important to expose students to all of these different modes so that they have the opportunity to find the mode that works best for them in understanding the content. Nicola, could you just go back one slide?
Oh, sorry, did I do that?
I think so.
No. Okay, sorry.
No worries.
Oops, that's strange. Talk about using technology. There we go.
Thank you. So I just wanted to briefly kind of go over all of the different modalities we ended up using in our online classes, and then I'm just going to talk about two in detail. So we did still have spoken discourses, so teacher talk. There were some students who did use their microphones to verbally communicate in our online classes as well. We also had written discourses. So for this, often our class contributions would take place in the chat box. So students would post their answers to our questions and discuss ideas in the chat box together rather than verbally speaking them. The students were also required to review learning material online, so in our learning management system. And then we would also email the students an email before the class outlining the week's tasks and activities, and an email after the class outlining what we just discussed during the class, just to kind of sum up and scaffold a little bit further what we covered in class that day. And then, of course, we also had our audio-visual aspects, so PowerPoint presentations, shared documents for group brainstorming, and media clips. So what I'm going to do now is just speak briefly about how we used the chat box in the online classroom, and then after that I'll talk about our use of shared documents. So what's on the slide now is basically just a screenshot of our learning management system. We use Collaborate. And so when the students log in, this is what they see. That section in the middle where it says welcome on the screen, that would be where our PowerPoint shows up. And then we've got that chat box down the right-hand side. So this was one of the key differences in how we taught online compared to when we taught in the classroom. And really, we decided we would predominantly run our sessions using the chat box. And this was for technology purposes. So again, it's come up a few times that students' access to technology and to internet can really impact their experience in the online classroom. So we decided the chat box was a good primary source for us. So this was definitely positive in some aspects. So some students were more encouraged to ask more questions and clarifications through the chat box than they would have been if they'd had to speak their questions, or than they were in the classroom as well. And interestingly, this also opened up an additional language modality through the use of emoticons. So you can probably see down the bottom of the chat box there, we had emoticons built in, and the students really enjoyed kind of being able to send an emoticon in response to particular aspects of the classes. So in that way, that really helped that interpersonal relation between lecturers and students. So it wasn't completely absent, it was just more shifting to words and images rather than spoken interaction. And Nicola's going to expand on this point in a minute. There were, of course, also limitations to using the chat. Some students were slower at typing and they struggled to respond to our questions and responses quickly. And this really kind of impacted the flow of discussion that we had. And it also meant that students had to focus on their reading and writing skills more to contribute rather than focusing on their listening and speaking skills. So for some students who felt that they were perhaps weaker in those skills, that proved really challenging for those students as well. And then they also had to comprehend not only a spoken response, but if they were responding to other students in the chat, they had to interpret that written response as well. So the chat definitely has positive aspects, and I think it can go a long way to overcoming some of those technological issues, but I think it really needs to be carefully thought out how to best use it in this way as well. And then Nicola, if you wouldn't mind just flipping to my next slide as well. So another way that we tried to encourage, I guess, collaboration between our students in the online chat, in the online classroom, was through using shared documents. So what we would do was we would create a template document, we would send the link to the students in the chat, and then they would all be able to access the document and all edit it at the same time so that they could jointly construct their ideas together. This worked really, really well. So the example on the slide is from a brainstorm of students brainstorming different synonyms for keywords from their essay question that they could use as search terms. So we hosted this document in Microsoft Teams. You could also host it in something like Google Documents. And they were able to work together on this in class. So while this was like a live activity in class, it also created a really nice record of what we'd discussed. We could email it to the students after the class so that they had that record, and that also really helped students who had been unable to join the class to take part. Again, probably some of the issues with this was that it wasn't completely anonymous, so maybe some students felt a bit unsure about sharing in this way when their initials were attached when they were writing in the document, so you could kind of figure out who was saying what. This was also really challenging with larger classes, and we had the document crash a couple of times. So probably for larger classes, you would need to split into 2 different documents as well. And again, it created this over-reliance on the students' written communication as well. And I think that there was just a comment in the chat about this. About how it was more focused on written discourse rather than the spoken one. Yep. So for sure, in our particular classes, because of the context of our classes as well, it's really developing the students' academic literacy skills with a focus on writing. That was kind of what we were focusing on in our classes too. Yeah. All right. Thanks, Nicola.
Thanks. Okay, so I'm very conscious we're actually run out of time, but what's exciting is, as I mentioned before, Anh Pham is going to be presenting, and I think I expect she's going to, and not to make any assumptions, but I expect you're going to elaborate on many of the things that we've started to touch on. So I'm just going to, with regard to the interpersonal, which, as you saw earlier with some of the issues students identify, is an extremely important part of their learning, which also plays into the developing their spoken and using their spoken language. So I'm just going to move quickly to some points about increasing interpersonal opportunities, and these were drawn out, a number of them out of Anne's work and our observations. So using, and as Raelke suggested, through multimedia, we can use social media as a forum. So students, utilising things like Facebook as another way that students can be connecting with each other. So we encourage them. We have a Facebook page, and we encourage them to create their own Facebook study groups, using video clips and other multimedia to bring that human into the space, so that it's not just written and a voice. You've got faces and language and examples. So we use lovely examples of people in real life doing things. So it increases that humanality of it. Using the webcam and videos we've talked about, becoming much better at getting that online interaction going. So one of the things we realised that is, if we start the session connecting people, so we ask them, how was your weekend? What was the favourite? What was the best thing you did this weekend, or whatever? Getting people just chatting in a relaxed way, getting them to use their emoticons to say how they're feeling, relaxes everyone and builds the trust, and then they're more likely to engage in the sort of more serious conversations as you go. So increasing also, and this was a really interesting point that came up in what I was reading, is that increasing the students' awareness of their responsibility for their role, and letting them know why it's important for them to interact, letting them know how that connects with their learning. Because what we found as lecturers is that we felt very bereft as teachers. I think someone mentioned this earlier, we couldn't see what students were feeling and thinking. So it made teaching feel very one way for us. So it's a two-way, responsibility as communication is. So having those kind of conversations as metacognitive conversations with students can be a really, really effective way of getting their engagement. So, yeah, there's a whole range of other things about being prepared and et cetera, but I'm going to end with something, again, I suspect Anne might mention, because this was the favour around her investigation in her PhD, was coming back to Salmon's 5 stages for successful online English, because what I found really interesting when I looked at this again, and many of you are familiar with it, is so much about this model is building the interpersonal capacity of students, starting with access and motivation, and all those sub-themes of being welcoming and encouraging, providing cultural bridges. All of those aspects of her stages actually lend themselves very well to English language learning, other language learning, online space. So I might just leave you with that thought, I think many of you will have much to offer the space, but thank you all for having us here to share our fledgling reflections on the space.
Excellent, Nicola. Thank you, Raelke, Nicola. Great presentation. This morning, actually, I prepared my laptop to help you with the presentation, Nicola. Yeah. But I blew up my laptop, and I think I think that's another tension, right? In online learning.
Exactly. And in fact, yes, thank you. And I was going to end with, and I think we don't have time, but what would have been great is to, and maybe at the end of the seminar we will have a chance to think about, well, what was all of our language experience attending the seminar, because in fact the way we've presented the seminar is much the way we present our learning online with our students. So we can put ourselves in our students' shoes throughout this seminar. Thanks, Hannah.
Thank you again. Next we are going to invite Anh Pham, Dr. Anh Pham. She's excellent lady. Yeah, I met her before. And before I hand the mic over to Anne, I need to let you know, everyone, that actually we have YouTube streaming here, and then also you can post your questions in the chat box with the format. I already post the format for you guys, and then in questions and answer session, we are going to discuss further about the questions, and our speakers, our excellent speakers, are going to answer those questions. All right. Allow me to hand over the mic to Anne, and the mic is yours. And
hello, everybody. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. First of all, let me share my PowerPoint first. Okay. Okay, can you see it? Okay.
Yeah, it looks clear.
Okay, cool. Okay, let me start with the, let's say, the acknowledge of the country. As many Australians employees is doing. At the start of the business, I would like to do it on behalf of RMIT. RMIT University acknowledged the people of the Wurung and Bungung language groups of the Eastern Queen Nations, on whose unceded lands we conduct the business of the university. RMIT University respectfully acknowledged their ancestors and elders, past and present. RMIT also acknowledged the traditional custodians and their ancestors of the lands and the water across Australia where it conducts its business. Okay, let me just go back one slide. Oh. But just about doing the best we can. This is the phrase I just pick up for my presentations. Thank you. First of all, I would like to thank Dr. Julia for the invitation and having me to present in this international Zoominar. And also thank you, Nicola and I'm not so sure I pronounce your name right, Raelke, about your presentation. You really can set the sense for my presentations in terms of providing the audience of Australian context of bringing teaching and learning into online and the requirement of teachers' adaptations into the new normal. And I'm very interested in the points of, in many of the points that you mentioned around the challenges of moving online. Like in the very first instance, when I hear you recall, I'm thinking like, it seems like we have a lot of challenges, but until I can hear from your college, and then I can find out that felicitating is key, and the approach and for felicitating the sessions, and also understanding how to use the collaborate functions is also can help solving the problem raised from learning online. And I love your focus on learning rather than teachings. And if, let's say, combining you both point of view and share, then we can figure out, okay, teaching and learning online at the first instance look like very challenging, but if we understand and get familiar with the functions, online functions, then we can we can kind of manage still working with students and bringing the effectiveness for the teachings. And from there, I'd like to share my experience as a teacher when working in the role of placement, work integrated placement teachers, and also some of my observations when working with students, working with the industry to prepare the resources which we think are relevant to help the learners learning the best they can with the resources we as teachers doing the best we can to prepare for them. Okay, let me bring in the second slide. Okay, I want to start with the approach that we choose for our teachings. We're teaching in youth work. We're not teaching now in the language educations, but many of the activities that students doing on placement is supporting learners in the communities to improve their language skill, study skill, and most of the skill they require, just like what you mentioned, Nicole, require the a certain levels of language competencies, and also we find out that without the minimum levels of language competencies, and it may prevent them from positive engagement into the learning activities over the virtual platform, and in many cases we can see that it can let's say kind of let them feel exhausted engaging in the let's say more than 30 minutes online, and it's because the characteristic of the learner cohort that we have, this is in community, and there's a lot of diversity in terms of cultural and linguistic background. So we are trying, and then they're young. There are two key group. One is very young and low level of language, and the other ones is about the teenage, a little bit major young persons. So I will show some kind of resources that we develop later on, but basically what we rely on, the concept we rely on is learner focus rather than teacher focus. We do the little research with the community supervisors to develop a project, the project-based learnings, where we ask them to provide us with the needs and the level of language and digital literacies of the cohort that we are going to do activity with. And then from there, we trying to apply the experiential learning and servant leaderships. Experiential learnings is for both cohort. The first cohort is our youth work student cohort, who will be going there working with the community supervisors to develop the resources for the activities. And then we encourage the service leaderships among students to have them taking lead and engage into the project-based learning. And it's worth to provide you with a little bit of the background of the student that we are teaching. We are in Melbourne, and as you may know, Melbourne is in the the hotspot of COVID-19 pandemic, and the place we are situated now is even in the hotspot of Melbourne, where we have severe situations of virus transmissions, and that's why we put in place support services, and also a lot of effort into supporting both the student who are on placement and also the young person working with they're working with in terms of language learning and then activities in the community. That's why we do need to promote the experiential learning and then the servant leaderships among this cohort. And how we can make it, we are trying to review the literatures about university and community engagements, and we relied on the support from the university-wide, particularly the industry engagement department, and also even the global experience office, and also the let's say the career and pathway job shops to support us with the with accessing to the relevant resources so that students can function just like the language mentor or language tutor. And with all of that, we co-design, we network with the community sector, particularly the local city councils, mostly, to co-design the material that that our students will bring in to just play with the young persons with the purpose of helping them to improve their language, and then improve the learning skill, and also other engaging them with the other topics that the city council would want us to develop. And the technique we're trying to do is to position the activity into the local contact that we are working with, and also, and then bring all of that understanding and knowledge into creating the resources that we need in order to engaging with young persons. I have here some examples which we are now putting on YouTube playlists for to share. This is there are three different categories. The first one is about example of how we co-design with the local librarian to develop the action role play and storytelling for the very young learners, and some other language activities. And the other topics is about the self-care study tips, and also the finding a pathway into uni. I have a couple here. Each will take about 2 or 3 minutes. Let me show you the first one about the action role storytelling. Just give me a very quick click. Hopefully it can bring you to, okay, let me see whether I can bring you to the,
3 plums. But he was still hungry.
Yep, it is.
Hi everyone, my name's Jude. Welcome to the Zoo Park Library today. We're going to be doing a retelling of The Very Hungry Caterpillar by Eric Carle. In the light of the moon, a little egg lay on a leaf. One Sunday morning, the warm sun came up and pop! Out of the egg came a tiny and very hungry caterpillar. He started to look for some food. On Monday, he ate through 1 apple.
And I think you need to share the screen, please.
You can.
I'm sharing the
But he
screen.
was still hungry. On Wednesday,
Okay. Excuse me, Hannah. How can I make it? I thought it is. Okay. Let me see how I can share the screen.
And you stop share first, all right?
Yes.
Yes.
I stop share first.
Yep.
Okay. And then I can share the other one, yeah?
Yes, yes. Very good. Thank you.
Okay, cool. Let me see, share screen. Okay, let me see. Okay. Is it fine?
It's cool. Thanks.
Thank you. Let me bring you a little bit back.
out of the egg came a tiny and very hungry caterpillar. He started to look for some food. On Monday, he ate through 1 apple. He was still hungry. On Tuesday, he ate through 2 pears. But he was still hungry. On Wednesday, he ate through 3 plums. But he was still hungry. On Thursday, he ate through.
Yeah, I'm mindful of the time. I have a couple to share. I just want to highlight here is that with this story, usually we can easily find the available YouTube without much teaching at offline. And then what we want to do it now is using library resources to build up another one. And the storyteller here is actually the supervisors of the project we are doing with the library. And with this, we do hope that it can create more engaging activities among young persons of the library, get them feel familiar with the setting of the story. This is actually the library, and then also bring in the familiar face, the librarian one, for them to feel like, okay, they're just playing, and then pick up the language from the story, rather than using the one-size-fit-all available YouTube story. And the other link that I would like to share, let me share the other one. Okay. I just need to close this one first, yeah? Stop share. And then just, okay.
Hi, and welcome to Practice Your English with Greenbank Libraries. My name's Sarah, and welcome to Practice Your English. We'll give you a word of the week with conversation topic, and my name's Sarah. For this week's word of the week,
you haven't shared the video, and
I need to share again, right?
Yeah, you need to stop sharing the previous one, and then come to this. Yeah.
How come? I have already stopped sharing the previous one, right? And then now I'm just sharing the other one. I'm struggling to share. How comes?
It seems like you did, couple.
Sorry, I'm not very much familiar with Zoom. Okay, share. Yep, I got it. The complications coming because I have two screens and it kind of mixing. Okay.
we're looking at the minimal pair.
Can you see it?
Ship
Yeah.
and
Okay.
our topic is, what is your favourite animal? And our Aussie slang is mozzie. Let's get started. Let's start with our word of the week. For our word of the week this week, we're looking at the words ship and sheep. Ship and sheep are a minimal pair. That is, they're two words that have different meanings but sound very similar because they only have one different sound between them. In this case, the sound in the middle of the words. Ship has a soft I sound, like in sip, trip, or zip. Ship. Sheep, on the other hand, has a harder, longer E sound, like in me, be, or tea. Why don't you try saying them a few times and see if you can hear the difference? Ship, hip, ship, or sheep. E, sheep. So what do the two words mean? Ship is a noun or naming word and refers to a large boat, kind of like this. When used as a verb or doing word, ship means to transport or send something or someone by boat or by mail. For example, I could say, they will ship the cat food to my house.
For this one, we're trying to support young person to pick up the vocabulary and making it a little bit easier for them to learn the new words with the pictures. And we're trying to simplify it with just one or two minimal pair per day, and also with a sentence of the day, and make it just once a week and then get students and learning and young learners feel comfortable picking up language the way they want. And I think there should be a couple of more examples from my presentations, but I don't think we have enough time to explore all of that now. I would encourage you to explore it in your own time. The other three examples is made up and created by our own students. One is about self-care. The other one is about the learning pathway. The content themselves is not really relevant to the English language teachings. But what I want to emphasize and what I want to bring to you is this is an example of how we can use technologies to visualize the content that we want to bring to the young learners. Then with that, even with the very diversity and maybe barriers and challenges of the cultural and linguistical backgrounds, and then they can still make sense of the content, and then can let's say pick up the language and then feel comfortable engaging into the learning activities. So let me just quickly stop showing this one and get back to the PowerPoint to wrap up the talk. Okay, how can I get back to the PowerPoint? Yep, here. Okay. So what is the lesson learned for us? The lesson we can pick up from here is like the key things is in this new normal, what we can do is we're just trying to keeping learners in the loop. And in order to do that, we're trying to focus on learning interactions rather than checking out the student presence, and we are trying to providing learners with the resources and the support that they need. I'm share a lot of thought with the previous presentations about how we can better support learners with reviewing the resources prior to the sessions. Then if we can have, let's say, creating the resources basic like this with the keeping in mind the suitability to the learner needs, and then we can keep their engaging and then get them focused on interactions, either through the chat box, and also encourage them to create the resources like this in their own time with their own resources, and trying to be creative in telling their own story or telling the same story in their own way, and then bring it to share into class. Then if they correctly can, if you can, say, give them some kind of instructions of how to share, just like what I'm just relying on Dr. Jujun to support me, and also Hannah to help me out with the technologies, low literacies, and then I can get out of that and can share my story, and then engage more with the learning activities in class. And for the next one is we trying to get out of the ideas of preparing for teaching, but preparing focus more on the learners. That is, we in this situation, we are preparing to teach for learner, for the teaching for learner, teaching for rather than teaching with the learners. Sometimes learners are not really willing to engage for some reason, and sometimes they just have technical issues. So teaching with learners sometimes is not kind of possible for all students. But if we have prepared something to teach for the current situations that the learner are in, and then we can kind of make things possible. And so takeaway message from this talk, I just want to wrap up my share with the message of trying to utilizing community resources to move forward. This is it. This is all I have to share. And thank you for having me, and thank you for your attentions.
We thank to have you here, Anne. Thank you very much for sharing your idea. Yeah, Dr. Anh Pham, the Associate Research Fellow and Placement Teacher of RMIT University, Australia. Thank you again, Anne.
Yeah, thank you.
Our next presenter, she's Bahasa Indonesia teacher in Queensland. Please welcome Dewi Andriani. She is a PhD candidate in School of Education, the University of Queensland. And she also Indonesian tutor in Institute of Modern Languages, University of Queensland. So please welcome Dewi.
All right. Thank you. And can you please stop sharing the slide?
I'm just trying to. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. And now. Okay. Can everybody see my slide?
Yes, very good.
Yeah, all right. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. As you said that I'm a PhD student at the University of Queensland and also an Indonesian tutor at the Institute of Modern Languages at the UQ. And I would like to thank you to the participants here for coming to this session, and also particularly to Ibu Yuyun for giving me the opportunity to talk about the topic of my presentation is the emergency remote teaching in the language, the challenges and the opportunity. So my presentation is based on my subjective experience teaching Indonesian. Here I just want to share my experience, and whether, while it is not the experience of teaching English, but I believe that teaching Indonesian as a foreign language has a similar principle with teaching English. Now let's come to the introduction. We know that the COVID-19, a global pandemic, has affected everyday life, including us as a teacher. It has shaken up the landscape of language teaching and learning. And also there is an interruption to education and to language teaching as well. Normally, language teaching and learning process were held in conventional, traditional, or face-to-face classroom. But because of this pandemic, it drastically changed, and we were shifted to a virtual classroom or online learning classroom. We have to follow the protocol to keep the distance, and online learning was a great solution. But But actually, there is a debate among the educational professionals and researchers about online learning. They say that online learning is not the best term to use in this current situation. They say that the arguments say that online learning and teaching is based on the careful preparation and also careful planning, and it takes a long time to prepare. Let's say it takes about 6 or 9 months of planning. And of course, it is to ensure the quality of the instruction delivery. And it is also the alternative strategy for education. So the students can choose either they want to study online or they want to go to the face-to-face classroom. So it is not an appropriate term to use in this pandemic situation. So Hodges et al. Say that the appropriate term to use with this current situation is ERT, or emergency remote teaching. The reason they argued that the emergency remote teaching is only a temporal teaching, and it is not an alternative. And it is just only for a temporal solution. Now, I would like to tell you a little bit about what IML actually. So IML is Institute of Modern Languages under the University of Queensland. It offers languages other than English to those who are interested in learning a language. So Indonesian is one of the languages studying there, and it is a non-degree course. In Indonesian courses, the students range from university students who want to do field trip to Indonesia, or could be a researcher who wants to know a little bit about Indonesian conversation, and also people who love Indonesia, or they have partners who are Indonesians. So basically the reason people to study at IML vary, but the drastic change happens at IML early this year. Usually we had a face-to-face classroom, but because of this pandemic, we have to change from traditional classroom to virtual learning. But nobody was prepared actually, including me as a tutor. And the shock came when we received an email from the director of study. The classroom would be moved remotely, they said. The campus would close due to the pandemic threat. We got the news by email, and then 1 week after the course started, just 1 week, and we had to be ready to use Zoom as a platform, and we don't know anything about what Zoom is at the time. So the following week, the teaching and learning process was off, and it was used for, there was no class, and it was used for training the tutors to be ready to go online next week. And also we are sent a survey if we are ready to do this one with many questions, maybe I think 5 questions, but surprisingly 100% of the tutors response positive. And with the training for Zoom was prepared. All IML tutors were expected to attend the virtual training not face-to-face, of course, and it's via Zoom straight away. And in that training, the IT instructors explained what Zoom was and taught us the features of the Zoom at the time. And then to practice and to familiar ourselves with the application, we were put into groups to perform a mock teaching using Zoom. And it happens only the second week when the teaching and learning process stopped. And a week passed. With just a limited time and preparation, we met the students via Zoom, boom, the following weeks. But fortunately, we had a support from the emergency to conduct the emergency remote teaching from IML actually, to ensure that the learning and teaching process runs smoothly. The first one is an ongoing IT support, which is very important for us in a real time and also outside a session time. The IT staff are always stand by during the class and after the class. So if we have a difficulty or if we have issues in technology, they are available for us. And there is also a telephone number that we can dial. And also after the initial training, we also have a virtual meeting. It was conducted the first few weeks after the Zoom classroom was launched. So the meeting are conducting, the aim was to give support to the tutors like us. And we can share the experiences and the hints and the resources. And also we can share the problems or the issues that we face and the tips and tricks. Besides that, we also had a professional development. So IML offered PD for teaching staff to facilitate the transitions after the initial training. For example, the use of PowerPoint or PDF and other technology things. Even though we are ready to teach online, of course, the ongoing support from IML is very, very important. But I still found, but beside the support that is given by the IML, of course, as teaching staff and tutors, we found challenges with the drastic situations. So the challenges that we have is preparation, planning, and redesign the syllabus to suit remote teaching with a short intervals time was very stressful. We have to redesign the syllabus, and we are not sure whether it would work or not, because this is the first time. And we need to change what we think is not suitable for the online classroom. We need to find an alternative way. However, for my courses, the contents were not much changed. And the second challenge is a teaching learning process. The first one is technical issues, especially the first week. For example, the students could not join the meeting. They contacted me by email, so I asked them to contact IT straight away because I was not able to resolve the matter. And fortunately, the matter was solved. And also students could not connect because there was a problem with the internet connection on the end. And also there was a problem that could not be controlled. And also sometimes the microphone was not working. And I did not know why. But the sound just didn't come out. So I had to leave the meeting and rejoin. That's the solution that I could do. And another time, students could not see the screen that I shared, like the problem that Anne faced just now. Or I shared the wrong screen because I have two screens, so I did not have I did not share the right one. That's why I learned that every time I share the screen, I would ask the students to ensure that I share the right one. And then sometimes I press the wrong button. Instead of pressing the breakout room, I accidentally left the meeting. But fortunately, I have I have the very supportive students. They're still there when I come back to the meeting. And also the teaching techniques, another one, it was a challenge. Some teaching techniques were not working in remote teaching compared to the conventional classroom or virtual classroom. For example, when I had to teach direction, left and right, it was just confusing because it was reserved. When I said right, the students saw it left, and when I point to the right, and the students saw that left, and it was just confusing. And the second one is by using the flashcard in the face-to-face classroom. I usually use a flashcard. It was not working using the Zoom online because, again, it was reserved. So students couldn't see clearly. So how to solve that one? So I had to modify the teaching style. And also another one is about using timing, by using the timing, particularly the activity. Sometimes I need to make a particular adjustment. For example, when we play Kahoot, maybe everybody knows about what Kahoot is. And then in virtual classroom, for answering the questions, we just need maybe 20 seconds for the students to answer the questions. But when I played that using Zoom, it was not working. It was too quick. And the students, by the time students wanted to press the answer, it was just changed. So I need to adjust that at least 30 seconds. And also another challenge is I had to be creative and experimental using the teaching techniques. So I need to prepare for plan B if plan A was not working. And another one, social relations. The social relation with the students are, social relation, the closeness with the students and with the colleagues are missing. And I'm not familiar with the students' faces that look small on the screen because we could not socialize with the colleagues. And I have the feeling of isolation. Staying at home and delivering the course online was very stressful. And another one is a student's engagement, because I was not really confident, especially the very first weeks when the program was launched. I'm not very confident with the application because it was new to me. So I focused more on technical issues. So I often ignore the students, and I feel also the lack of gestures, eye contact, and I miss the traditional classroom atmosphere. So the lack of the real contact is a big challenge for me, and also a nonverbal interaction. And the next one, the last one, the challenge, the challenge that I have is the time spent in front of a screen, because the lessons last for 2 hours. So you can imagine it is very long for the students and me in front of the screen. But from the challenges that I face on the first weeks of remote teaching, I think I can see the opportunities to develop and improve myself. So the first one about preparation. So as time goes by, I redesign the syllabus for the next semester. I mean this semester. So I could reflect on what worked and what did not work. So through discussion with colleagues via Zoom, we can improve the preparation. Improvement in preparation has been made because of the lessons that we learned from the last semester. And also the teaching and learning process. I make use the features in the Zoom. What can be challenge in teaching and learning process can be an opportunities to learn something new. So making use the feature of in Zoom, for example, I have the opportunity to introduce the students with the online language instructions, for example, using the target language, which is Indonesian. So we practice the word mati and hidup. I said matikan mic for turn off the microphone, or hidupkan mic to turn on the microphone, and it become a habit in every lessons to use that. And also lambaikan tangan or jempol, I use that. And also I make use the breakout rooms for pair work and group work. Because in traditional classroom, face-to-face classroom, the students can mingle, but instead of classroom, breakout room is very important to keep the students talk and interact to each other. And in my class, the students had homework every week. They write a paragraph about the topics that we learned, but with the example that I gave. And they normally sent me the writing by email, and I correct it and compile it into one file. So I encourage the students to use the words that they already learned in class.
Bu Dewi, I'm afraid that time is up.
Oh,
thank you.
Sorry. Okay. Hang on. So slide. Okay, so just the closing. The shift of emergency remote teaching. So the opportunities also improving computer literacy, dinner with students at the end of the semester, student engagements, and a break for 10 minutes break, just to do that. And remark or closing. So I know that there is a shock for emergency remote teaching, and we have to brought this one into normal. So some issues are still beyond our control. But as I made it clear, there was two sides of everything. The real contact is a big challenge, but the non-verbal interactions, the time spent in front of the screen, the greater needs for the preparation. However, the opportunities can be, or the challenge can be put into the opportunities. And there are also two sides of everything. Which wise people say that there is no magic spell to make things right. So with careful planning and experience, I'm confident that remote teaching as a platform for teaching the language that I teach can be an alternative, actually. It is initially an obligation, but it can be put as an option. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me call you as Ibu Dewi now. I think that's more polite. Okay. Thank you for sharing with us. That's an excellent idea in teaching language, and I do believe that there's a certain challenge there in Queensland teaching Indonesian, and Yeah, I think your experience demystify the idea of teaching language as well. Thank you, Dewi. And for the next presentation, it's going to be Dr. Wan Irham Ishak from University Teknologi Malaysia. Dr. Ishak has a specialization in comprising language, in this case, English for specific purposes, discourse and communication studies, professional communication, and applied linguistics. His area of supervision includes discourse and communication studies. Dr. Ishak, allow me to hand over the mic to you.
Thank you very much, Pak Hani, Dr. Hanandio. Am I pronouncing your name correctly, Doctor?
Perfect. Thank you.
Perfect. All right. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum. Good morning. Salam dan bahagia. I'm very happy to be here again with Universitas Sarjanawiyata Tamansiswa. First of all, I would like to extend my appreciation for inviting me to this conference, seminar, Zoominar. I would like to thank Professor Dr. Supriyoko, the Director of Graduate Education Program, Dr. Imam Ghozali, the Vice Rector for Academic Affairs, Dr. Yuyun Yulia, the Vice Rector, also Dr. Hasti Robiase, my fellow colleague, and also fellow presenters, Dr. Nicola, Dr. Anh Pham, and also a lot more. I would like to greet also participants from Malaysia, Indonesia, Thailand, and as far as I know, from Philippines and also Iraq. There's one from Iraq today. So ladies and gentlemen, let me share with you the slide. I am from University Teknologi Mara, Kedah branch, Malaysia. We are the biggest university in Malaysia with more than 150,000 students. We have branches all over Malaysia. So I would like to share with all of you what we experienced during movement control order and this new normal, which I believe has shaped us to be more resilient, all of us, all over the world. Okay, so this is what I'm going to talk about. So let us begin by looking at this picture. Handsome guy, I believe. What is this? You can directly respond to me, or you can type in the chat box. In Bahasa Indonesia, what is this? Or in English? All right, never mind. Let us look at another one. And this is not native to Malaysia or Indonesia. And this is American. Ladies and gentlemen, these two animals respond differently to threats, respond differently to whatever action posed to them from external forces. For example, from human beings, from other animals, and so on. One is chameleon and the other one is a skunk. One will blend with the environment, the other one will emit foul odor, foul smell to deter the enemy from coming near to this particular black and white guy. Very interesting, but it emits very foul smell. So what we are talking about here, COVID-19 has changed the way we react. Some people change positively, and some people change the other way around. And as for us, we change positively. And in Malaysia right now, we are in the phase 7 of Recovery Movement Control Order. It has been extended to 31st of December 2020, which means that the October semester, the classes in universities will be both online as well as physical face-to-face. But the minimum interaction in face-to-face between 30 to 50%. So what is that we have to do? Like Ibu mentioned just now, Ibu Dewi, during movement control order, everything stopped. Universities stopped, schools stopped, and we were given time off to stay at home and to actually help the authorities in order to stop the spread of coronavirus. So let us go back to what we are going to talk about. And in Malaysia, in general, internet penetration is good. However, some places, some states in Malaysia, remote areas, for example, in the states of Pahang, Kelantan, Sabah, and Sarawak, limited access to the internet. Okay, and for the reasons such as low technology literacy, lifestyle, remote area, inaccessible. So that is also one of the considerations that we must understand, right? As far as using handphone, using laptops, we are good. Okay, we know what to do and so on. So what did we do? Everyone had to prepare to teach new way. Now we know Google Classroom. Before movement control order, Google Classroom or WebEx or Zoom, they were alien to me. They were alien to me. And I believe only those in business or what we call it, international business will use such Google WebEx or Zoom to communicate with their fellow counterparts all over the world. But now, this application is for everyone, all right? In addition, Facebook, we know Facebook only for social purposes. Now we are using them for teaching, all right? As well as Telegram and WhatsApp. So what happened here when we decided to use internet to teach? We must know that there are people who are unable to have the instrument. When students went back home during movement control order, they left everything at home, at the hostel, at the rented houses, such as textbooks, such as computers, laptops, and so on. So they have only with them handphone. So in order to overcome that, Malaysian government provided funds and using Prihatin National Fund, as well as universities. Universities also provide funds to assist the students. So in Malaysia, UITM, we began our online classes on 13th of April 2020. Yes, of course, what happened, we were experimenting. We tried, and then we faced problems, and then we adapted. We learned from other people, and it becomes a routine learning, relearn for not just the students, for the lecturers as well. So what happened here, in my experience teaching English online, I have divided this into pre-teaching stage, teaching, and also reflection later. So what happened here is that in the pre-teaching stage, it is the most crucial. Before we actually start our class, we have to identify resources, what hardware and software available for online teaching and learning, not just for the lecturer, as well as for the students. This is because lecturers may have or may suggest that we use, for example, Google Meet or Google Classroom, but students come from all over Malaysia. Some have better internet access. Some come from remote places. and some come from different social economic status. So we must consider all this, or else they may not be able to join our classes. Number one, due to their location with low internet connection, or they do not have money to buy data, right? And then we need also to identify suitable platform for online class. And mind you, English language teaching will require interaction from both parties, lecturers and students. This is because we are teaching skills. We still want them to contribute, to say something, so that we know that they are learning, so that we know that they are doing their group work, so that we can access the production skills of speaking, pronunciation, whether the words that they pronounce are correct or not. And then before we teach, also we need to adapt materials to suit online classes. Previously, what did we do? We meet them face to face. In normal classroom, if we can see them very clearly whether they don't understand or whether they understand. And at this time, we have to do two things. Number one, to adapt materials to suit synchronous learning as well as asynchronous learning. So some of the strategies will involve pre-recording of audio and pre-recording of audio visual to share with the students. And then also we need to disseminate instructions and tasks before class. Okay, this is important because we want to make sure they have access, they have reading material before they come to class, and that when they come to class, at least they know certain terminology, they have read something. Whether they have read or not prior to class, that one we have to trust them. Okay, we have to trust them. Okay, and during teaching and assessment, what do we have to do? Now we are meeting them face to face. Face to face means online, all right? So we must have an agenda. In Malaysia, in University Teknologi Mara, the class is 2 hours. For your information, it will not be, it is not possible to have a full 2-hour Google Meet. This is because some of my students, and myself included sometimes, we were disconnected. Our internet service provider, sometimes they have problems. The internet connection will simply disconnect us. So we must prepare that the best time to have online class is only 1 to 1.5 hours. And then we must compensate that with other channels. For example, in my case, I'm using WhatsApp. Okay, we use Google Classroom, ladies and gentlemen. This is official UiTM account. We can also record audio visual for teaching purposes, for record purposes. In my case, I was teaching and I'm still teaching academic writing using online resources with the help of online library resources, sharing of YouTube. And this is because I understand that we have very limited time with them and 2 hours is short. So students have to use extra time, their own time, to view YouTube videos for tips to improve writing, to improve pronunciation, presentation, and so on. So we have also other examples that we find useful in order to teaching academic reading, listening, and speaking using British Council Learn English for Teens websites. From here, the websites are for lessons during off class. Okay, during off class. in this case, what we call it, this is very important because we understand that they have time with us, and also they have more time, longer time at home that they can use and benefit from. And we use the class time to actually teach important aspects that we feel that they have to learn from us, and after that they can improve and they can get more from other sources. Next, we go on to look at what do we use. We use Microsoft Office tools, Word, PowerPoint in teaching, and we also use during normal class we have whiteboards. Now we don't have whiteboards, so I myself use Microsoft Word to teach them how, for example, to form TC statement, topic sentences, and this is very useful because in this particular time, students want to engage together with the lecturer in doing what they are doing. Okay, and I'm using WhatsApp for continuous consultation. This is because students sometimes they feel shy looking at us face to face, so they prefer anonymous. They have their names, but they don't want to see us face to face. And when I share with them ideas, opinions in WhatsApp, they prefer that during consultation. And for your information, consultation can happen at any particular time, and sometimes even at 10 at night. I still engage with them because at that particular hour is where they feel that they are free, because they are at home. They have to take care of not just their teaching and their learning, but also they have to take care of their family. The next one, teaching English for professional interaction. In my case, during face-to-face, we can do simulation or role play. Now, in online, the internet is the platform where we can also use this particular time to teach them communication, get them into groups, and ask the students to form group for the particular project. In this case, they will feel more comfortable in small groups. They will meet us online and interact in role play. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, in my case, in our case in the universities, assessments were administered using online platform. And the question here is this: whether we trust them to do online platform assessment. Can we trust them whether they have access to other ways of answering? So in this case, what we have to do is we have to trust them. And because of that, for example, in writing tests, the time given is 2 hours, and we use Google Form. We extend the time to 2.5 hours, and they have to return the answer script via email. Okay, writing test papers were sent via Telegram to students, and later they will answer and send the email within a specific time frame. Okay, speaking wise, they can use pre-recorded or they can do live presentation. And again, the issue here, whether they read or whether they prepare, and this one is also something that we have to consider and to actually believe in our students. And listening tasks and audio were sent via Telegram, and then later they will use the time, their own time, and within a specific time period, they have to answer the script and email to the lecturer. And again, For reading papers were sent via telegram, and students answer their script by email within specific time frame. So this is what we did, okay? And I believe this is for a particular situation like what we are facing now. Ladies and gentlemen, so what have we learned in the reflection after the class? After the class, what we have to consider is that if we use mobile data, we use video conference for 10 weeks, 14 weeks, one class, 2 hours, we have students taking 4 subjects, 7 subjects. It will require them to pay for a lot of mobile data. And in our case, our university provided financial assistance for internet, 120 ringgit. And also, the teaching aspect is challenging. Another aspect that is more challenging to me and to my colleagues will be marking online scripts. Previously, we receive papers. We receive assignments, but now we receive emails. Some of us use Microsoft Word and Adobe PDF and edit from there, give comments, and we also have Kami Digital Classroom Hero. This is application to transform any existing document into an interactive learning experience. We can comment, we can use pen to actually make comments, and drawing tablets where the extension is used to the laptop and so on to help to teach. In my own experience, yes, we have this. I tried using this, but in the end, what did I do? I printed my students' assignment because I'm still learning. All right, I'm still learning, adapting to the technology. And at this particular time, my solution was to print. Ladies and gentlemen, new normal, new technology requires us to be patient. All right, because like just now, what do we have to do? We have to make sure that the internet, the application can be used. Sometimes we are disconnected from our students. And then also we have to deal with human beings. We have students who simply cannot join our class because he or she has to take care of her siblings, his siblings. And then we also learn that we are flexible actually. We are human beings. We are flexible in teaching English. Even without face-to-face interaction, we know that English language can be taught using technology, and it can be taught well. Students can learn, and students, the new generation, they are flexible. And we think that only face-to-face classroom learning will be useful, but my students, our students, they are better in learning with technology. They are more attentive. And being technology savvy, we have to learn, we have to continue to learn, and we have to invest to buy software, hardware, so that our learning will be better, and hopefully whatever we teach later, first we learn, then we teach, will be understood by the students. And then we also must understand the shift of delivery methods from face-to-face to multiple online channels. And this is important also because accessibility varied from household to household. And learning, we have to understand that distribution of learning resources can be challenging. This is because not all will be able to download 20 megabyte audio or visual. Even more worse if we have to share 2 gigabyte file with the students. And they have to take 6 or 7 subjects, and all lecturers will share files and files with them that they have to download. And then, ladies and gentlemen, I know that students are at home, therefore the shift of responsibility and teaching and learning. Students are at home, we cannot see them face to face. Online classes requires a lot of active participation. And this is one way for us to ensure that students are physically present, or else they will not be there. They will mute the speaker, and they will also a microphone, and they will also stop the video. We do not know where they are. So we must also inculcate that by asking the students to actively participate. I will say to my students, when I ask you to say something, to read something, this is my way to gauge your level of English proficiency, your pronunciation of words, the way you say an intonation of English language. And then we also shift the learning evaluation from classroom evaluation to suit the online learning. So this is also something that we must continue to actually ask ourselves, what can we do to better understand, to better test our students? And this is actually how we lecturers and how we teachers manage ourselves. This is from Hobson and Adam, 1966, when we face a particular situation in like us here. The first month, we do not go to work. Phase 1 is first shock. We feel good. We are at home. And then phase 2, we are still facing the honeymoon time, or we do not have to go to work. We are at home. And then students are also at home. They do not have to face us teachers. And then the 4th month, inner contradiction, where at this particular time, students are at home, but still they have to teach. They have to learn. We are at home, but we have to teach. We feel confused. We lose confidence. And some of us, we are depressed. We might face depression. And then the 6th month, phase 4, the inner crisis. And then the 7th and 8th month, we are picking up. We are reconstructing. We are recovering from this particular COVID-19 incident. So we begin to accept, and I believe now we are actually better. We are actually becoming adaptable to this new norm. This is where we adapt. Remember the animal that I showed you? Chameleon adapt to a particular environment. Chameleon adapt well. And human beings, we adapt well. And what we have to understand is that we must give ourselves certain time frame to be better. Of course, when we are sick, we take time to recover. In this case, the whole nation, the whole world will have to actually face, accept, and also move on from this particular COVID-19. And in teaching English, now we are better, now we understand, and now we are going to look at teaching from a different perspective and teaching from a different angle from what we used to before. So ladies and gentlemen, I come to the end of my presentation, and like Chameleon, we live in unusual times and we are required to adapt very quickly. And I believe we all adapt very quickly one of the points that I want to make here, Sarjanawiyata Tamansiswa University is hosting this particular seminar, and this is where we are together to adapt. We are together to learn to share the best practice that we have from Australia, from Indonesia, from Malaysia, and so on. And this is very important. The more we learn from one another, the better we recover, the faster we recover. And of course, it was not easy, but ELT practitioners, academicians in general, students in general, we adapt, we manage. Congratulations. With the help of new digital tools, new ways of working, ethics, it is possible for us, not just ELT practitioners, but I believe educators, students, and society in general, we will be able to continue to flourish. And in the case of academics, we will continue to teach English, to communicate with students, and to conduct assessment in new way, new normal. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, I would like to thank Sarjanawiyata Tamansiswa University for this opportunity. And it is great meeting all of you. Thank you very much. Salam dan bahagia. Salam UITM di hatiku. Assalamualaikum.
Thank you, Dr. Wan Irham.
You're most welcome, Pak.
Yeah, last but not least, we still have one presenter, one speaker, Dr. Imam Ghozali. He's our Vice Rector for Academic Affairs. And without further ado, please, Pak Imam, let me hand over the mic to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Pak Hanandio. First of all, I would like to extend my greetings to my colleague participant speakers from Australia. First, we have attended the first presenters. We had a very solid team chaired by Dr. Nicola, and also in collaboration with it's hard to me to spell this, Raelke and also Andrew Pollard. And then second to Dr. Anh Pham, who has shared her model of teaching English. Also to Dewi Andriani, who has shared her experience in how she tried to recover from the COVID and here. And so last but not least, from my brother, Dr. Wan Irham Ishak from UITM, we learned a lot from your presentations. I think we really have to put those items in our agenda. I also would like to extend my gratitude to all the faculty members of the Graduate School of UST. We have Director of the Graduate School, Prof. Dr. Supriyoko, and also all the faculty members, the faculty members of the English department of the graduate schools, UST, and also all the faculty members, and also all the Zoominar participations. Hope that we can implement what Wan Irham has just now stated, that the more we learn, the more we talk to other people, the more we would like to recover from this pandemic conditions. I do believe that this is true. Before we start, I start the presentations. Could you allow me to share my short PowerPoint? Shared. Okay. Could you see the? I don't know what it is. Someone made it for me. It's like combination of all stuff. The first thing that I'd like to share is that from Dr. Nicole's presentations after the last presentation from Dr. Wan Irham Ishak, I could see that there are two things, two themes. The first two presenters offered a real, alternatives is how teaching of English should be better implemented with this scenario of pandemic situations for that. And then Wan Irham and also Bu Dewi has shared their experiences and also offer some kind of like practical solutions. And so I myself would put myself at the very end, because I would like to share of what UST, the institutions, has taken steps into facing this COVID virus pandemic situation here. When we attended those discourses, you know that we feel we are sharing the same feeling about this. Yeah. However, the reactions to this condition is different due to different conditions. From Wan Irham's presentation, we see that actually the problems faced by students and teachers over there are also similar with the problems that the Indonesian students and teachers are confronted. However, the reactions to the problem over there varies due to our conditions. Indonesians and Malaysians different because Indonesia has a wide area of population, also a place in which there are a lot more blank spots of the internet coverage are not reaching over there. So we have more serious problem with that. So I would like to put the presentation in brief, because some of the topics over there has been presented by the previous presenters. And I would like to put this into 4 topics. First is I would like to share the background, which actually familiar to us. Second is that I would like to share our early responses from the university, what are reactions to this kind of conditions. And then at the end of the semesters, we did kind of evaluations. And then number 4 over there is I would like to set that as our designing our future. But this is actually similar to what Wan Irham's plus presentation, like the 5 stages over there. We try to recover from this. So said that there are some kind of similarities between what we share over there. Let me start from the background. I think all of us see that the outbreak of coronavirus pandemic has affected most of aspect of human life. This is like Bu Dewi's statement over there, including we say that education, of course. That prior to that, it is our practice that we have like face-to-face classroom, we have face-to-face interaction with the students over there. But because of that, those kind of things are not available anymore. And most formal institutions have made necessary steps to prevent the spread of the viruses in terms of making like a lockdown or something like that, and then making restriction for physical contacts. We can call it physical distancing or something like that, and hoping that with this preventions, the virus will not spread to more and more people over there. And because of these regulations has changed the practices of our educations, which lead to kind of, we call it like paradigm shift in education, because from having like face-to-face interactions, and then now we have to change this into non-face-to-face interactions, which is like internet-based or more mediated internet-based with it. And from the last from I think March up to now, online learning has become like the main mode of education, which shifted from the face-to-face mode of instructions in the previous semesters. And previously, we thought that this kind of condition over there will hinder or halt our moves to make enhancements to the educations. However, learning from our colleagues, we learned that these conditions should be a motivation for us to make more powerful programs to provide a better quality of education for our students. Instead of the pandemic conditions over there, in which there are so many physical restrictions to meet between teachers and students over there, the demand from community for quality education remains the same. As said that the students still need quality education from the teachers, and then the government should always evaluate whether our services to students are fulfilling the minimum quality that they provide or not. And also from the Ministry of Higher Education always evaluates our accomplishments, how to conduct this education at this conditions over that. So evaluations is always conducted or continually conducted by the Ministry of Higher Education in terms of leveling of the universities. So pemeringkatan universitas pegawai negeri, pemeringkatan universitas itu tetap. So the leveling of the universities are still keeping going. Okay. So we believe that online education or providing education through online or internet is the only solutions that we are thinking right now. Let me from the early response from our institution is that because of the regulation from the universities, from the government, and so the regulation from the Ministry of Higher Education said that campus should not be used to meet as regular practices. Is very understandable because usually classes are very crowded and the students come from different places, and then we can control our the students' conditions in their own houses. So therefore, it is restrictions from the Ministry of Higher Education to hold the face-to-face classroom. So therefore, all universities should reformulate the face-to-face classroom into internet-based one. This regulation is also, as maybe Dewi and Wan Irham said, that it might shock many teachers because many of them are not ready to shift from the offline to online teaching or education for there. However, it is good things that in the previous months there have been a lot of discussions on the nature of life in Industry 4.0 industrial revolutions and also 5.0 social societies over there, which gives clues that the future of life or education to be like this. So all teachers and scholars who attended those kind of talk are more prepared to face this shift over there. However, not all teachers are attending this kind of interactions. So therefore, they are not prepared with what kind of competencies that required to hold the online class here. So therefore, after the universities decided to shift recommended the face-to-face classroom into internet one, many reactions from the teachers and students over there. Although initially, because we do not know what is best to accomplish this, we thought that just internet is just a kind of a medium, and then by putting our material into internet, and then it will do all. In fact, that it is far from what we are expecting. So attending from Dr. Nicole's and also Dr. Anh Pham's presentations, we see that we need to do more than just converting the printed material into the digital one, but there are methodology of teaching which should accompany this, so that the presentation of the materials will be more challenging, more interactive, more effective in terms of facilitating the learning and teaching processes. At the beginning of there, we don't have those kind of experiences, so we let the teachers to use whatever tools or whatever media, whatever learning management systems, not LSM, LMS, so that just to keep the classroom going. So at the time, just because the students are at home, but although and then if they are not occupied with this kind of learning processes, and then their mind will be going somewhere, and then we ask the teachers to keep the students busy with the academic work, so that we let the teachers use whatever medium or asset systems to make the classroom going on. This is accompanied by was kind of a policy for providing relaxations for rules such as classroom for both teachers and students, because it is a transitions. Very often the schedules could not be run regularly, because we must make a point with students whenever we want to hold classes, so that there are so many kind of negotiations. So therefore we do not apply the restricted rules in conducting this classes. We said that as long as the learning outcome of each classes are met, and then we let everything to the teachers and students for that. At the time, we are thinking that the conditions over there will run only in 1 or 2 months, and then after the 3rd month, and then there will be normal conditions, and then we will back up with or make kind of compensative conversations meeting to recover all the loss during the pandemic condition there. However, as we see that the conditions keep going until now, and there are even more serious problems that we are facing currently now. So after the first semesters over there on June and July, the first semesters end, and then we try to do the evaluations to see how the online education is provided in universities over there. And then, okay, the evaluations was given to more than 10,000 students who are active in this semesters. And then the survey, it is a survey, it is an online with the module. And then it had 25 multiple questions, which is distributed into 3 areas. 18 items are asking about the students' learning activities, and then 3 items involving the students' competencies, and then 3 items ask about the facilities that are available for the students and teachers. And then 1 essay to elicit the students' perceptions of the strength and weaknesses, and also what they hope for next classes for them. And then we made the survey mandatory for students. Mandatory meaning that we put this as a requirement that students have to do before they open the access from the portal, so that the students before they access to the our systems, academic systems, they have to open and answer the questionnaires first. From this evaluations, we see we categorize the result into 3. First is about what the students learned, and then second is about the facilities over there, and then the third is about the quality of learning and teaching processes. We have 6 faculties over there, and then the 3 problems over there, all the 6 faculties over there, the 3 problems over there are shared in these 6 faculties over there. And then the most dominant problems over there with little minor varying degree of intensity of the problems over there. The first is that the students claim that their mastery of the content is on mediocre. So it's like in the score of 50 to 60 out of 100 over there. And then when we analyze this further, this is due to the lack of they being unprepared to attend the online class first. And then it is also contributed by they said that the quality of the teacher's presentation is not as usual, not as what they usually get when they were in the offline or the face-to-face interactions for that. Well, this is understandable because the decisions to shift from the face-to-face into online is so sudden for that. And then the students are not prepared, were not prepared to make shift, so that most of them are not prepared to get shift. And also the teachers also, many are not prepared because they could not shift from the regular traditional face-to-face interaction into more interactive and internet-based for that. So both are contributing, resulting with the mediocre accomplishment of the students' mastery of the content materials for that. The second is that on questions on supporting tools and facilities, I think this also shared in Malaysia that first of all, not many students have sufficient laptop. Of course, that all of them have a handphone, but the handphone is not good enough to attend these classes. And then, and the handphone are in varying degree of the quality. And the most original one, I think they could not catch up with the last mode of teaching learning process. For example, like Zoom over there, of course, many students could not attend it. And also, since lack of the internet connections, in several places of the country over there, there are no internet connections over there. So that's why many students could not attend the classes over there. And then we have to understand this. So therefore, the university has made a kind of relaxations policy that usually when the students do not attend 80% of the class, they could not attend the final exam. But for this situations over there, the university tried to ignore this policy, just let them take the examinations however they at whatever attending the class look like. Supporting tools and facilities. So first of all, I said that this is because of the students do not have those good laptop and also the internet connections. Because of that, and then many could not attend the class, and then because of this, they could not attend the material better. Of course, that the summary of the class is also provided in terms of WhatsApp over there. But if they are not attending the classroom, I think many could not get a full understanding of the class over there. And further evaluation said that the classroom are not interactive. So as I said before, that the shift from the offline into online over there was made insudden, so that the teachers do not have time to prepare a good and interactive or effective means of providing the classes to the students over there. They just convert the material from the printed one into the internet one and digital one, and then just give it to the students for that. Sometimes, sometimes the teachers only give assignment to students to do, which is not actually helping students, and then students feel that they get punished or something that with this kind of stuff. So therefore, they need more interactive classroom models for that.
5 minutes, Pak Imam.
Okay. I think this is the data, and then let me come to the conclusion, design the future. As reactions to the assessment over there, it is also our quality assurance principles over there. We have to give programs to help them list the problems. One is that we provided the workshop and training for teachers to help them design more effective internet-based instructions. We hold this on mid-August, and then gradually that most teachers out of 291, 250 attended the workshops. And then after the workshops, and then a couple of weeks after that, more requests for a group of teachers for having like coaching, so to help them, shape the model of teaching is much better. And then the last but not least, as it happens to Malaysia, we also provide financial support for the students. We also, the institution also give monthly money for students to buy data. And also last month, the government announced that all students and teachers will be backed up by some funds to get data so that they could hold the classes much better. So hoping that this is like Wan Irham's cycles in the fifth on the last stage, and that there are stages to recover to do more better than the percent. I think this is what I could present, and hopefully that all your suggestions would help us, designing the future for OSJ to be better in designing online teaching in this pandemic condition. Thank you, Pak Hani. Sorry for the time.
Thank you, Pak Imam.
Yes.
For sharing your ideas and sharing the finding about what happened in OST so far. dealing with the pandemic. Everyone, so we come to Q&A session. I'd like to invite you to write in the chat box for the questions, but that I have 2 questions already in chat box. First one is for Nicola. Let me repost it. So that's going to be easier for all audience to have a look. Oh, hang on. Yeah. Okay, here you are. So the questions for Nicola dealing with how we give the assignment for the students with multiple intelligence. And let me check if Nicola is still there. And then another one is from Anne. I think, Anne, you've got a bit response to Sean, but you'd like to discuss further about that first while waiting for Nicola. This, Anne. The questions is about the.
Now, let me read down the question.
All right, yeah. Keeping the students in the loop by using PPL, right? Yeah.
Yeah, in terms of keeping student in loop, and I try to relate with the problem-based learning approach. Do you deconstruct the big projects assessment in chunk to still monitor their learning? And do you put students in groups for the many of their assessment or individually? My very brief answer though is, let me just quickly say, yes, we did unpack the assessment unit of competencies into the project's deliverable. Because I'm in vocational education, then we have the learning packet where each assessment task target a smaller piece of competence that we want to develop for students. And then with project-based, we do both. We first of all unpack it in the project deliverable, then bring it to negotiate with the industry. Then our industries in youth works is a community youth sector, and we let them know about the requirement of assessment and observations. We bring in the observation checklist and then asked if they have any capacity to advise about how we can put into the engagement activities we are trying to organize for the young persons. And also we unpack one big project with one organization into different sub-projects with the sub-theme. And then we put, let's say, just 4 to 6 students in one projects, depending on their express of interest, to do the projects in the areas of their interest, and then also their talent or passions. And one more criteria is their planning for the internships or placement with the organizations, and also their career plan after graduations. I hope that can respond a bit to your questions.
Yeah, all right. Let Sean process that a bit, and then let me invite Nicola.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Hanan. Let me just first say thank you to the other presentations. It's been so interesting, and I feel like it would be great for us to all continue to have conversations, because the experience of Malaysian context and the US TAR context. There's a lot for us all to learn and share. So that's, it's been really great. I was meant to be at a faculty meeting, but in the end I just said, sorry, I can't come because this was too interesting. So just in response to that question, it's an interesting one about multiple literacies and assessment. And to be honest, I mean, we take into account students' multi-literacies in the way we scaffold and teach in the classrooms, in the sense that we use that multimodal opportunity to present information in lots of different ways. We discuss, we look at things visually, we write. And I sort of see our job as educators to be speaking to all those literacies, but also helping students to develop literacies that they're not confident in as well, because in the real world, they're not going to be able to just present information visually or whatever. So in terms of assessments, we're preparing them for university assessments. And so we cover a range of genres, from personal reflection to annotated bibliographies to visual presentations. So that's where students who are strong in that space, and they have to visually and verbally present to us, and then in a discursive essay. So I don't know if that answers your question, but we try and cover those opportunities for students to express themselves and learn in different ways and through different modes, and build their confidence in modes they're not confident in, and still have a voice in modes they are confident in. So I don't know if anyone's got any thoughts to follow up on that. It would be great to hear from other people. I think Hanan's run away. Oh, there he is.
Yeah, I still hear Nicola. So. Yeah, so that's two questions, and I think I'll invite Bu Nani, Dr. Nani Supriyani, to join in with the, hang on, let me unmute you. Okay, Dr. Nani's got questions dealing with the evaluation or assessment. Please, Bu Nani.
Yeah, so I think I have written my question there, Pak Ani. So in assessment during this pandemic era, the tests, especially for high school students in English learning, the tests can be very, very unreliable, because student can cheat, okay? Their parents can help, their parents or maybe friends, brothers, sisters can help them doing the test. And many parents, confess that. So what do you think of that? How to solve the problem? Okay, maybe this is for Dr. Wan Irham, yeah? Maybe, I'm not sure. But maybe everyone can, all the speakers can answer that. But maybe for Dr. Wan Irham. Thank you so much.
Yes, I agree with you, Ibu. It is like what you said. Even the parents can help. For example, in speaking test, students were given 3 minutes to prepare individually, but we could actually hear students exchanging WhatsApp messages on what to say and what not to say. But again, in this particular time, in the new normal, if you talk about reliability and so on, that one is something that we can discuss And this is our first experience. And we teachers, lecturers are also smart. For next semester, I believe we will devise new way, better way to improve assessment and evaluation, so that we will test the students in a way that will actually reflect their skills, their capability in English and other subjects. So that's my take on it.
Okay, I'm waiting for your solution here, Dr. Wan Irham. Okay. Thank you.
Pak Ani, can I say something, Pak Ani? Pak Ani, can I say something with Bu Nani's questions over there? Okay. I am supporting Wan Irham's statement over there. During the faculty meeting, questions like Punani's case has been raised over there, and then finally, we come to just trust them. So, the word trust that Wan Irham put in your presentations, I put it over there. Just, we have to put trust here, otherwise, the evaluations assessment would not run well, and then. It might be a challenge for us. How could we create such kind of evaluations which is more authentic, which reflect the students' capacity itself over there? And then, of course, that we have to communicate with the students over there. So, assessment here is not based on grading, but this is due to revealing the actual competencies in a particular space. So, so it's not the grade itself which is appreciated, but what they could do with the language by themselves for that. So if we could put this trust on them, I think it would be much better for us and for the students. So this is what I want to share.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Pak Imam. Thank you so much, Pak Imam. Yeah. Trust. Yeah. Trust them. Yes.
Yeah.
Can I add something?
Yes, please, Anne.
My experience working with the slow learner students, not only in emergency remote learning due to pandemic, but also earlier on, because the cohort we have here is most of them coming from the low socio-economic backgrounds in Australia. And then what we're doing is just offering more support on top of the trust that you can build and then you can offer. We are trying to organize the schedule, delivery schedule in a way that it allows us to have more room to offer the catch-up class to small group. And when we were face-to-face previous year, we trying to set up the group of 5 or 10 on campus and just dealing with the particular questions that students still struggle finding down the answer. And then in the remote learning, we're trying to make it where possible, even one-on-one support with the through email or through Zoom, or we're not using Zoom, we're using Collaborate. Whatever that can work for students. Then some of our students are just like single mom with a lot of noise making in the background, or a lot of restriction in terms of time available when they can be off duty of care to their children. And then we are trying to accommodate as much as we can to the student needs and support, and then we can see that they're feeling more confident, and then they can complete the assessment task. Then sometimes we have to allow them to do resubmit beyond the cap that we can offer to the general cohort.
Could I add to that? Can I
Please.
say? I just
Please,
wanted
Nicola.
to say that, Pak Imam and An's points are such important points, and I love the way you've brought those two things together. Because with Pak Imam's points about the fact that if the tasks are not about testing, if I understood you correctly, if students know it's not about testing, it's about us helping you learn and about you practicing. And if they're presented in ways that are non-threatening in that sense, and then picking up An's point that they're supported in their capacity to deliver those tasks, then and given a chance to send drafts, then the desire to cheat should reduce completely, because, or not completely, but significantly, because students, one, know that it's not a test, but two, that it's part of their learning, and three, that they're being supported with that. So I really love those ideas, and thank you for both bringing them together. They're really important.
Thank you, Nicola. Any other opinion from the speakers? No?
Yeah, one point if I may add is that if you put, let's say, assessment task into a project-based, let's say, learning process, and then even some student would want to, let's say, escape from putting a hand in completing the task, then they really need to do something, and then sometimes we turn it into a competition. Rather than just like completing the task, we just put the task there and then ask them to involve and then do the task, and we can do the assessment when we jump on and attend the project meeting where students all need to contribute their thought and then contribute their work from their ends. And then this is the way we get the evidence of our marking.
Okay, thank you, Anne. Aldrin's going to...
One more question. Okay. I'm interested in what Dr. Nicola just stated, that how could we help students perceive evaluation not a test but as a part of learning. Here, this is very, very important things, because if students usually say evaluation and then they ask hard and then it's a test, and then just now Dr. Nicola said that help them understand that evaluation is a part of a learning process, and that's true, and then not being tested for that. What are strategies or tools to help students understand this, or what should teachers do for this case? Thank you.
Then for us, in order to make it, let's say, possible for students to understand why we're doing that, we're trying to teachers having meeting all together to make necessary adjustment to the assessment task. We're trying to think from student end of context, and then change the way we assess them and bring the adjustment that we agree to, not negotiating with student, but to let student know from the beginning. Say this is the current situation of pandemic, and this is the barriers of assessing you as we did. We usually do on a face-to-face context, and this is the way we unpack the unit of competencies that we need to assess, observe, and assess you on the spot. And for one project, we we're gonna need to test you with a communication skill. And for that communication skill, how we do it, we will assess the way you communicate among peers in the same projects group, and then the way you communicate with the external or industry supervisors, and the way you, let's say, share your thought in the project development meeting. The way we do it, how we can assess, and we ask students to, we create the generic email account where one little projects group will all have access and all need to do the communication through that channel. And this is where teachers is included. And then we, in terms of, that challenge is there because it creates a lot of work to teachers in terms of engagement with students, follow it up with them where we can pick up any challenges and we can see any student, let's say, left behind, and we need to do, let's say, follow up individual email, then just check in whether there are any technical issues with them, there are any individual personal issues with them, any need they have any need or further support, and then offer the catch-up, individual catch-up, or even we are trying to engage that student with one that is bright, that is proactive, that is more experienced, to pair them up so that they can work with each other behind the scene and then catch up with the other peer in the same group.
Yeah, thank you. And from Nicola, you want to add something?
Yeah, just a thought from a sort of broader level in answer to Imam's question. I think a lot of it's to do with your overall assessment design. So if you design the assessment with the idea that you want it to be authentic, if you think about you want it to be about formative learning, and perhaps something summative towards the end. And so PBL, which Anna's been talking about, lends itself really nicely to that authentic approach. I think that really helps because then students know they're doing the assessment not just to be tested, but because it has a practical application and they can see that practical application. And then the other thing I would say is tell them about it. So we're very, we really talk to students about metacognition in regards to their learning. And we say, before we do anything else, let's think about what are we doing here? Why do we want to be here? What our goals are? What do we want to learn? What's the best way to do this? And this is what we're doing to help you achieve those goals. And so you kind of bring them on board in that way. And I know some of you are talking about teaching much younger children, so how you achieve that is going to be different from when you're teaching adults, as some of us are doing. But yeah, those are just some thoughts anyway.
Thank you, Dr. Nichols, Dr. Ram.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr.
so
Nicola.
much.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let me invite Aldrin. I asked him to unmute. So, Aldrin, can you join us?
Sir. Good morning, sir.
Yeah, Aldrin, can you?
Sir, good morning.
Yeah. Good morning.
Can you hear me, sir?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Well, I'd like to share with you my plan for my online assessment during in my classes, no? Because I saw in the chat box a question about how can the professor be able to preserve the integrity and credibility of the examination when it is to be taken online. The worry is that the parents or the siblings may help them answer the questions, or the students themselves may cheat. No. On my part, what I plan to do is to give them online assessment tools. No, there are a number of online assessment tools available, like if I don't know if everybody's familiar about this, the Kahoot, the Quizzes, or the Quizmo, no? So these type of applications are time pressured. So you can set the time, you can set the correct answer already. So once the student has answered a particular item, the student would know whether or not his answer is correct, no, right away. So you can give the assessment all at the same time during your online class. So that's my plan in assessing the learning of my students. So to give them like either quizzes, app, or Kahoot, or Quizmo. All time pressured, sir. Thank you, po.
Thank you. Any response from anyone?
I just like to say, I think it's important to recognise that there are times where we will, and subjects where we do need to examine them. So those sorts of suggestions are also very helpful about the sort of technicalities of, ensuring the integrity as much as possible. In Australia, we have something called remote proctoring, which is used for some of our exams. So I guess some of those kind of software or whatever can be useful in those instances where we can't get away from examination as well.
Can I add something into that?
Please, Anne.
For me, there should be some way for us to, let's say, support students to better understand the content that they need to understand, and then put that understanding into a contact where it can gain some kind of in-depth about how it works for them. Let's say when they're graduated with the certificate and then capable of doing things and then survive with a job, they can, at least they can compete for a job and then survive in the job. And what we're doing is we're just trying to separate the knowledge tests and then the practical tests. And in these situations where we have to move everything online, and then the challenge of having some kind of student who not really want to put hands on doing things and then just wait for the other peer in the same group to do almost most of the job and then get credit out of that. And we don't think from the aspect of, we don't look at that from the aspect of cheating or not, but we think from the aspect of how we can better support students to realize that this is not right doing that. And then at the same time, we offer help by not only with just offer a hand, but we design, just like you mentioned before, Nicholas, we design the assessment task in a way that the student have to do something. And if they want to be assessed, and then we adjust the proportions of that means the balance between the practical authentic tasks where we can assess students in some way through their engagement with the project's deliverable, and also make the proportions of the knowledge test as minimum as possible and bring up the proportions of the authentic task up to the maximum level. Then at the end of the day, the student need to credit anyway. And if, let's say, we have no way to test whether they have knowledge when they complete the knowledge test or not, because we are not there with them. We don't know whether they need a hand over the phone with the answers or not. We don't know. we know that they log in, they complete the test, and based on that evidence that we can, and if they take on the right answers, and they're deemed to pass the test. But we have no way to control the way they do it. Then the other way we can help them to deal with the challenge of completing the test is like bring it down, and then we just balancing, trying to be balanced. And definitely when they are trying to do something in a practical way, then they if they are not on top of the knowledge or the content, then they cannot complete the task in the projects. Or if they show, let's say, confusion during the projects, and then we can pick up from there and review the content that they need to know. And at that point, we invite them work with us in a 15 or 30 minute catch up individually. And this is the room where we can really support them to realize that this is the theories and this is the way we put that theory into practice. Then hopefully they can figure out and pick up the language.
All right, thank you, Anne. So teaching language online got lots of challenges in that way. Something like what one of the students shared, the idea to me that the students live just in the plantation of, just in the middle of the plantation, and it is hard for them to get the internet connection. Well, let's say categorize it as remote area. So just summarize some questions from the audience here. How about reaching this kind of students in the remote area? Any ideas, everyone?
Let me share, please.
Yes,
Allow me to
please, Dr.
From our experience, we do have students coming from a remote area. So in this particular situation, lecturers as well as university, we are prepared to go low technology. We go low technology by sending them textbooks, sending them notes and other resources by snail mail. We courier textbooks, we courier reading materials to the particular students. And our university has allocation for that. And that's the only way. Another way, if they cannot join Google Classroom, for example, if they can still use social media, WhatsApp, that is also another way that we can engage with them. And like I mentioned just now, pre-recorded audio or video will be helpful with the students in remote areas. They can use that. So that's a bit of my view.
Thank you.
We still have a couple of minutes to share.
Yes, please. And
yeah, I can share some sort of around these from my observation and having a chat with the teachers, teaching English to the at very low level to the student in adult learners in the community context. Even internet is available, but because of students, they are adult and they are with very low literacies and low digital literacies, and then they cannot have access and they cannot make use of the internet delivery. And then what they do, I'm asking them how they're gonna make it happen in these situations, and they share that they just like what you just mentioned, they trying to print off the resources and unpack it into each let's say each weekly packet, and then post it or make it available in the center, and then just trying to, in the first lockdown, where we still have some kind of limited access to the campus, and then students just have, let's say, booking through on the phone for the 10-minute catch up with student individually. They are taking turn coming one at a time, and then pick up the resources and then get instruction of how to do it. And when they finish up, they just post it back to teachers. For those who are more confident, and then they do not need much instructions face-to-face, and in the second lockdown, we have no access to campus, and then we just do posting resources together with instructions. But instruction itself sometimes in English and students cannot understand, and we're trying to use the, let's say, bilingual teachers, where teachers can support giving instruction in the language that students get more confident, and use the plain language to try to explain it, and then walk them through completing the task.
Can I add some more? Can I add some more?
Yeah, please, Dewi.
So I agree with Wan Irham saying that sending the materials to the students. For my case, while the technology is out, it is beyond our control. We cannot control that. The students cannot access the internet. It happened in my class. So usually I just send the material to the students via email, and so they can learn that, but not to particular students, but to all students. I ask them to their emails, and also we can also give the task by using, like Aldrin said, that he used Kahoot and Quizlet. So I gave them a task via Kahoot, and then they can do it in their own time. And I make it available, for example, just 1 week before, so they have to do that one before the next class, and then I can control. I can see who could do that Kahoot, who did not. So we can review that. So that's kind of another thing.
Thank you, Bu Dewi.
Thank you, Bu Dewi. We still have 10 minutes to share, to discuss. If you still have something to say, everyone. I cannot find any questions in the chat box. Well,
just one word, Pak.
Yes, please, Pak Imam.
Drawing conclusion from Dr. Ann and also Dr. Nicola about the about Kunani's questions. To hearing cheating in the exam is hurting to me. So I learned that from Dr. N. We could minimize that when we use like authentic assessment or something like that. And also from Dr. Nicola, also there are some wise statement that help students understand that this kind of assessment is a part of the processes of how to build competencies over there. So my question is still like that. Is it possible to minimize the use of cheating in the test or evaluation? Because to me, when someone said that you are cheating, it hurts me, although it is said to the students. So I myself as teacher said that, oh, I don't want to say something like that. So I don't know, just feeling that cheating itself is, something which is like too strong for such kind of, such kind of practices, because might be students want to, because they are not able to do that, and then they try to see how their friends do it, and then try to talk with them, and then we like label it as cheating, and then it's to me, it's hurting to me. So my question is that, is there a way of, avoiding us to use that kind of term, and then in terms of like practical, teaching over there? Thank you.
Yeah.
Whoever want to.
You still have 5 minutes, everyone.
Yes.
Any response? While waiting for the response, I think it depends on the way we have a look. If we have kind of test-oriented setting in our mind, then I think we experience hurting all the time, Pak Imam. But when the test is kind of giving scaffolding questions to the students to develop, I think, let's say cheating between quotation mark is part of the learning process, I guess. Well, anyone want to share something? Dr. Wan, please.
Dr. N, please.
Dr. Ann, please.
Yeah, thank you. My point is that we are here, we are teachers, and we're trying to send a message to students saying, okay, teachers are here to support you to get, to pick up the knowledge you need to know. And because we are teachers and we are professionals working within the university policies and procedures, and all we need to do is to have to adhere to the quality assurance and the requirement of the course. But we are here to support you to work through the journey, and then maybe at some point you find it struggling, you find it, let's say, challenging, bored, or let's say just want to give up, and then you just think about relying on somebody else to give you a hand. I think there's nothing wrong thinking that way, but it's not right doing that way because it's not adhered to the university policies and procedures. And then if we are not making clear to them it's not the right way to do, and then when it come to their working, they are getting out there working, and then they cannot distinguish between the wrong and the right, and then the one who suffers is themselves, and at that time they have nobody to rely on. Then here in the learning community, and you have us as teachers to support you to understand whatever you need further. You need more time to understand, or you need to, let's say, us to accommodate the learning facility or learning approach, so that you can learn. And if the student understand that we're here to help, and then they will change. At the end of the day, teaching is changing people rather than and uplifting people, transforming them rather than just like we relying on the very cold set of assessment, and very just like process of content. Content is just content, but we bring the spirit to the content, and we bring the spirit to the learning process and make learning enjoyable to everyone.
Thank you. And
well, I think I don't have to say anymore because Dr. N wraps up very, very nicely. The best at the end.
Yes.
Okay.
Two thumbs up.
Yeah, 2 thumbs up.
To be honest, I myself sometimes feel very lonely here. Sometimes what we think is not really, let's say, fit in with other colleges who are thinking teaching and learning is just like very traditional. It's like we here just like superior. We just like Mr. Know-all, and then we want to be very strict so that you're good. But sometimes in these situations, students have to deal with so many things, and they're under a lot of pressure. And even without pandemic, the world we live in now is, I think, is more challenging than the days before. Those old days, we have to live with poverty, but we don't have to live under a lot of pressure like our children now. So there's no need to put more burden onto the soldiers.
Right. Right. Okay, everyone. I think
yes, I do agree, because sometimes external factors will affect learning, and will affect everything. Sometimes it has got nothing to do with internet and whatnot, but some, their parents are unemployed due to this pandemic, and because of that, they have to spend more time not learning but helping the parents by doing some extra work and so on.
That's
so
true.
That's just true.
Yeah. Does it deal with the idea of etiquette? Well, we know that they encounter virtual work most of the time. Like this is some quick questions dealing with the etiquette in the chat box.
Yeah.
Can I talk about that, about the netiquette? So it seems that if about the netiquette, we have to make sure we have to, to set the rule at the beginning of the class, what should do, what should not do. So if they have to turn off the microphone, or if they don't have to stop the video, they have to, you have to make sure, you have to be consistent with the rule. So at the beginning of the lesson, you have to tell that until the students are able to expect what you ask them to do. So that's it. So reminding is very important for the netiquette, I think.
Right. Okay. Thank you. I think we're close to the concluding time. So I'd like to invite Bu Hasti, if you have closing words for our meeting today. Hasti?
Bu Hasti, welcome.
Wait a minute.
Yes, please.
Oh, sorry. I got problem with my camera.
Yeah, it looks good.
Okay, good. Well, it's really great time for all of us to have all the speakers, and we learned a lot from the presentations from all speakers, and in the hope that by listening, by watching from the YouTube and also from the virtual presentations, we can then improve our quality for the future teaching in terms of online teaching, online learning, so that as what Nicola said, that teaching is not only a kind of giving testing to the student, but it helps the students to improve the quality of life. I think the quality of life, quality of the knowledge that we should have. Thank you so much for all speakers, Dr. Wan Irham, Dr. An.
Thank you, Ibu.
Nicola and friends. And special thanks to Pak Imam Ghozali. It's a really a great moment for us to have you in this seminar, because
and Bu Dewi.
And Bu Dewi, thank you so much, Bu Dewi. Yeah, next time we will invite you for another talk in our department. This is yes. This is what I can say. Thank you again so much.
Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you, everyone, and thank you all speakers. Don't forget to
Thank you, Yun, also.
yeah, don't forget to fill in the attendance list. If you've done it, then that's all right, because we are going to reach you further with the certificate and also the material for the presentation today. Thank you again.
Sorry,
Thank you, Pak Hani.
Yes, I
Pasti.
would like also to say thanks for all the participants here.
Yep.
Students from the alumni and also everyone for all the world. I think you can watch from the YouTube. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for your participation, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Yuyun, Hana, and
yeah, and keep in touch, please.
Until the next time.
Yeah.
Until next time.
Okay.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Allow me to end the
Bye-bye.
meeting.
Enjoy the rest of the day.
Yes.
You too.
Thank you, Pak Imam. We will meet again, Pak Imam.
Yes, for sure.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Prof. Iwan. Yes, Wan Irham.
Yeah, you can leave
Ya,
the
Ibu
room.
Asti.
Yeah, and I will end the room meeting in the very last. Everyone, please.
Okay. Thank
Thank
you,
you, Pak
Dr. N, Dr. Yuyun,
Thank you very much.
Pak Hani, Pak Imam,
Thank you.
Ibu Hasti,
See you,
and the
Dr.
rest.
Yuyun.
Before closing, would you please take a picture first for the last?
Oh, yeah. Why not?
Yes, one more please for you, complete one.
I did 4 pages altogether.
Yes. It's
Yeah.
unfair.
Oh, okay, good.
Oh, pages untuk Guyun sendiri ya?
Yeah.
Ayo, enggak lah.
Thank you all. Yeah, see you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Looking forward to the pictures. Send me through.
Now what?
For sure, Dr. Ann. We will send the pictures.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Ann.